Hi, my name is Pastor Mark Nsimbi, and this is my Faith in Context story. Well, I see myself as a Ugandan, Kenyan, American, and I'm going to explain that to you. So, a Ugandan, I see myself like, like whenever Uganda wins a rugby match over Kenya, then I'm like, yes, I'm Ugandan, then I try to rub it into the Kenyans. And as a Kenyan, I always, like when the Kenyans win the marathon, that's when I'm like, okay, now I'm Kenyan, and then here in America, people see me as an African, a Jamaican, Nigerian, one of those. They always ask me. But then, interestingly, back at home, whenever I go back to Kenya, they actually see me as an American now. So I'm not one of them. Yeah, the American church is actually very different in many ways from the African or the Kenyan church that I grew up in, or the churches that I saw in Kenya. And one of the ways is, when I came here, working within the children's ministry, there was just like so much paperwork, more paperwork than I'd ever seen, in my life, and, always like sending out emails and stuff like that. And another one that I really realized when I, went to college and was serving in some of the rural churches is that there's so much, there's very few resources compared to the American church here. But I'm telling you, whenever I would worship, in those churches, I literally felt the presence of God. And, it almost reminded me of that passage in scripture where, the lady who barely had any money just gave the little few coins that she had, and that was acceptable to God. And so a lot of the African church, especially in the rural areas, does not have resources, but their heart is so genuine in what they bring to worship. With the little that they have so much joy and passion to offer us. So one of the gifts from the African church that I would like to give to the American church is actually the gift of community. And I saw this even more when I moved here to the US and reflected back on my growing up as a Christian in Kenya, is that the church in Kenya really taught me how to live in community. And there's actually an African way of thinking, that I am because we are. And so that's kind of it means that my identity is not because of me as an individual, but because of who I am within the community that I'm living in. And so, I really learned that living in community is not a task. It's not something that you check off of your list. It's a lifestyle. It's a way of living. And we also see that, in the Gospels, that because the scriptures were written to a group of people and not an individual. And so, I feel like the gift of community is a very important gift that I would like to see in the church here in America.